Hello everyone. Today we are going to start with the second technique of parallel processing. The topic's name that we are going to discuss today is the topic that we are going to begin today is VLIW architecture. So let's see what are we facing now. In the previous part we did study what do you say SIMD microarchitecture that you might recollect that wherein what do you say it was being the parallel processing was being done in single instruction multiple data format. And if you could remember, this was a simple diagram which was being what do you say depicted over there. It was nothing but D and H ka addition, and it is being stored in some register. So it was nothing but simple operation which was being performed on what do you say simple data words. Now we are going to look into some another types of parallel processing, beginning with VLIW architecture. Now in VLIW, if the number of now in general in the operating system, if the number of operations are performed parallelly, then the total time required is reduced. So this is somewhat which we want to achieve over a period of time. We want to achieve that the total what do you say operation time should be less, and more better the output, the more I would say the time efficiency should be maintained. Now VLI stands for very long instruction word. So for example, the processor TMS 320CSX, the one which we are going to study later, makes use of VLIW architecture. Now this type of architecture has a number of processing units. Now the block diagram of VLIW architecture is as shown over here. This is a simple what do you see diagram of what do you say VLIW architecture, wherein the program control unit is connected to two major what do you say memory parts. One is the multi-ported register file and the another one is instruction cache. Now this multi-ported register file is connected to what do you say read or write crossbar, which in turn is connected to multiple functional unit which receives its input from instruction cache over here. So now and let us discuss something about the what do you say the diagram. VLIW is basically accessed from the memory in order to fetch the operands and to store the result. The different functional unit, that is the one multiple function units over here, makes use of what do you say common multi-ported register file, the one which is registered over here, in order to provide a parallel access for multiple function units. Read or what do you say write crossbar is used. Now, the transfer of data between the RAM and the register file takes place using load and store operation of data. And if we write the algorithm which makes execution of independent operations, then using VLIW architecture, efficiency can be improved. So, this is what it is being mentioned over here, that if we write the algorithm which make execution of independent operations, then using VLIW, a very long instruction word, the efficiency can be improved to much greater extent. Now we are going to move further with some beautiful topics. The one of them is known as general purpose digital signal processor. So these are the processors which are used for general purpose application in order to perform what do you say signal processing. So let us discuss something about it. Now in this section, first we'll discuss the block diagram of general what do you say DSP processors. Now broadly there are two types of processor. One of them is fixed point and the another one is floating point. We had discussed this fixed point and floating point. The fixed point means the numbers which are what do you say integers in nature. Integers as in they are a whole number, they do not have a decimal what do you say point in them, wherein the floating point are the ones which are denoted by decimal point or in the form of 10 raised to the power something format. Now there are two types of general what do you say purpose the digital DSPs. One of them is fixed point processor, the another one is floating point processor. Now we'll discuss architectures of some fixed point and floating point processors. Now block diagram of general DSP processor. Now the figure, the one which is shown over here, it is a simple diagram. Don't get what do you say frightened or scared by the diagram. It's a simple diagram over here, wherein if you look, this one is working as a CPU in the middle, and it is being connected to the program memory and program memory via the address bus and the data bus over here. Similarly, it is what do you say connected to the data memory over here, wherein only data is being connected. So over here it is given by address bus and data bus, and over here it is this data memory is bidirectionally connected to input output controller, or in another words DMA. You might have heard this DMA in your what do you say microprocessor subject or microprocessor microcontroller topic. Now let us go back, we'll discuss one by one each and everything. Now the figure shows the block diagram of a typical digital signal processor. The program memory and the data memory blocks are shown outside as we had just discussed, but nowadays these blocks are fitted on the chip. Now, to store the data, each DSP or the digital signal processor has a large on-chip multi-port memory. One port of this memory is connected to input-output controller, the one which we had seen over here. This one, the input output controller, or in another word the DMA. It is connected to the data memory so that the data transfer can be done in bidirectional way. Now input output controller accepts high speed data from your ADC and your DAC. Now ADC accepts analog data, that is it is converted into digital data by selecting a proper sampling rate. Now this data is then stored into the data memory or the RAM which you have in general. Now this data is processed by the DSP, and then it is stored into the RAM. Input output controller, or the one block over here, takes control takes this data and sends it to the DAC or the digital to analog converter. The digital to analog converter, DAC, converts this data into your analog data. Now the program is generally stored on the available on chip RAM. So it is very much simple that some data is being stored on the read only access memory or the on chip RAM. It is electrically programmable, thus a code written for a particular application remains as it is on the DSP until and unless it is reprogrammed. So in case if you are programming a RAM to fetch data from a certain address for a particular, for some specific time, so it is going to perform that specific action up till a certain moment of time. Similarly, the on chip ROM, or I would say the read only memory, if some data is to be written on ROM, then that data will be written and it is available on the on chip RAM as it is mentioned over here. So all these data memories are electrically programmable. You can reprogram them to perform certain operations. You can also program them to store and fetch and store some data, as well as to send data whenever being called over here. Now we have a topic called as MAC. So in MAC, we have certain parameters to be discussed. One of them is ALU. Now your ALU stands for arithmetic logic unit. As the name indicates, ALU is used to perform arithmetic and logical operations. Now ALU can operate in parallel with other blocks like your MAC, barrel shifters, etc. Now what are these? We'll just discuss, don't worry about it. We'll discuss barrel shifters also. Now so larger number of operations can be initialized during using a single instruction. Now the flags are used to indicate the status of result after ALU operation, and after each ALU operation the flag. Now the other units observe the flags and make changes on results automatically without your user interface over here. So now your ALU can conditionally shifts its result up or down during the same cycle depending upon the state of input flag, and it increases the speed during many DSP operations, that is for example DIF, FFT. Now the dual ported registers are used to provide input to ALU and to collect output from ALU while simultaneously doing bus access. Now, at the beginning of cycle, the previously stored value is read out of the register, and at the end of the cycle the new value is loaded into the register. Now this feature is useful whenever continuous data is to be processed. Now desirable features of ALU, what we might expect out of a certain arithmetic logic unit is, for higher accuracy computation it should have for higher precision computation it should have sufficient accuracy. Then Arithmetic operations to be performed are add, subtract, add with carry, subtract with borrow, etc. While logical operations include and, or, XOR, etc. Now, the output flag are 0, equal, less than, or greater than, less than, greater than, carry, parity, overflow, and etc. The data move and arithmetic operations performed. The data move and arithmetic operations are performed in the same cycle. Pipeline, what do you say, or transparent options, one of the important features of, what do you say, ALU. Association with shifters for scaling inputs, and fast double precision capability. So if you have a double integer, or if you have a double floating point, what do you say, precision number of 64 bits, so it should be fast enough to to process the data very simultaneously. Now, barrel shifter, if you can look over here, the barrel shifter diagram is being simply described over here. Still we'll go for some theory part of it. Now, the generic architecture of your barrel shifter is as shown over here in the diagram. Now, consider an n-bit input word, that means a simple what is the n-bit input word over here. If it is required to shift this word by p bits either towards left or right, then p cycles are required. If will read out first, but using barrel shifter, this operation is performed only in one cycle. Now, what do you say, right shifting in binary by p bits is the same as division by 2p, and left shifting is same as multiplication by 2 into p. Now, barrel shifter can be used both at input as well as output of your Mac logic. At the input side, it is used for pre-scaling, and at the output side, it is used as post-scaling over there. Now, barrel shifter are mainly used, as you can see over here. Barrel shifter are mainly used for normalization and denormalization operation. Now, normalization means conversion from fixed point to floating point systems by the generation of what do you say, mantissa and exponent. So we had discussed this mantissa and exponent previously, wherein this mantissa is nothing but the simple floating point integer, floating point number, and exponent is something which is having 10 raised to the power term. Now, normalization is a two-step process. In the first step, exponent detection is done, which calculates the number of shifts required. Now, in the second step, the value is provided to the barrel shifter for actually shifting the number over here. Now, denormalization, there is also an important term called as denormalization, important from the term of Viva. Now, denormalization means conversion from floating point to your fixed point system. Exponent provides what do you say, the number of shifts required in the mantissa. So this statement you can exclude as of now from here to here, which is not required. If in case of what do you say, numericals if required, we will come back to that. Now, barrel shifters are also used to provide block floating point format. Now, this format enables a fixed point processor to gain increased dynamic range of a floating point with a floating point format without any overhead or any extra overflow. Now, you have another topic called as data address generators, or DAGs. Now, many DSPs make use of multiple buses to access the memory. It includes data memory bus and program memory bus. Now, due to the increase in number of buses, the speed of operation is increased, which is a plus point for us. Now, but it would require additional hardware to keep track of address of each of these buses. Now, DAGs keep a track of addresses of input data, coefficients stored in data, and your program memories. Now, CPU do not have to perform this task. DAGs are used to perform it. Now, this is useful when what do you say, set of addresses are used repeatedly. Now, address generation unit requires its own arithmetic unit to what do you say, increment or decrement the address and to generate offsets from the base address. Now, the following types of registers are required for any data access or data address generator. One of them is index register. What does it do? It simply holds an address and acts as a pointer to the memory. Then Then we have modify register. It provides increment or step size for your index register during a register move. Then third we have length and base register. It is used to set up the range of addresses and a starting address for a circular buffer. Now program sequences. The DAG generates data addresses. The DAG generates data address while the program sequencer generates instruction address. Now this block, that is data DAG generates data address while the program sequencer it generates an instruction address. Now this block keeps the track of program counter increment, conditional branching and looping, subroutine and interrupt handling. Now generally, the program flow in your DSP is linear except non-sequential program structures like loops, subroutine, jumps, interrupts, etc. The program sequencer selects the address of the next instruction to be executed and manages the execution of programs. DSP algorithms generally spend most of their time in loops. For such structures, cache memory is being used. Now, memory again an important part. Simple sa. Now, to increase the speed of operation, memories with low access time are required. Your SRAM or static RAM are suitable for this purpose. The load on memory is reduced by providing a set of registers on the chip, and the data memory is dual ported for simultaneous access by the DSP and the input output controller. The program memory must be fast while the data memory can be slower if pipelining is available. Now, input output controller. This block is used for DSP communication with the external world. Now, input output blocks are processing blocks. Input output blocks and your processing blocks are separate in your DSP. So now, the input output processor performs the data transfer from the memory to the input output device and vice versa without interfering the operation of your DSP. It is done with the help of your DMA controller. Now we'll start with something new. The topic's name is TMS 320C 2000 series DSP. It is one of the important topics when it comes to Viva as well as your final exam as well as your real world application. In the later part of the syllabus, we will see an advanced version of this processor. So yes, I would expect everyone to kindly pay attention. Now, it is a TMS 320C. Now, this is a series of fixed point processors. These processors have flash and ROM device options. The CPU of this processor consists of on-chip peripherals or on-chip components. The memory and the on-chip peripherals are included on a single chip, so the cost and size is reduced. Usually, the following on-chip components are included: fast ADL, event managers for pulse width modulation, and your timers. Now, first of all, we'll describe the architecture so that it becomes easier for us to understand the actual diagram. Now, architecture of DSP 320cc 2000 series processors is especially designed for real-time DSP application. Now, it is basically a Harvard architecture and it provides simultaneous access to the instructions and data. Thus, a full speed operation can be achieved. Plus point, बढ़िया है, मान गए. Now, it consists of two buses, namely program bus. Namely program bus and your data bus. The program bus is used to carry operands and instruction codes from the program memory. Now, the data transfer between various elements and the data memory takes place with the help of data bus. The simultaneous access to data as well as the instructions is possible in case of Harvard architecture. Thus, the processing time can be improved in case of 320C. Now, in this architecture, the coefficients are stored in program memory, so a separate coefficient ROM is not required. Mainly, there are three execution units as follows. One of them is called program control, the second one is CPU, and the third one is DAGEN, or as we had seen initially, data address generator. Now, This device, this device or this series DSP has a special feature like single cycle 16 by 16 bit multiplication compared to other architectures. Now it is basically a high speed device in which the algorithms are executed in real time. Now internal data and your program bus structure is divided into 6 buses. Each bus is of 16 bit. This six buses are as follows. First one is a program address bus. The second one goes as data read address bus. Then we have data write bus. We have program read bus. We have data read bus, and then we have data write bus over here. Now the number of cycles required for the execution of any just a moment of any operands depends on whether the operand is from the internal memory or from the external memory. Basically the same data and the program buses are used to communicate with external devices or external peripherals as well as for internal data transfer. So we'll discuss the CPU first of all for this. Now the CPU for just a moment, I'll adjust. Just a moment, beta. Now this is the diagram of a single CPU over here, wherein you can, as you can see from the diagram, the block diagram of CPU is as shown in the figure over here. Now the major blocks are as follows. One of them is input shifter. Then we have a multiplication unit. Then we have an ALU, and we have first of all the shifter over here, the product shifter. Then we have a 32-bit ALU, then ARAU, that is the one which is present over here, auxiliary register, arithmetic unit. Now if you can see commonly we have a program read bus which is accessed by both the data bus and the program bus over here. The data bus is connected to the multiplexer, which the data bus is also connected to the 32-bit P register, wherein it is being wherein the input from data bus is being taken and processed and finally given to a product shifter. So we'll discuss the diagram one by one. Now first of all, input shifter over here, the input shifter that is the present over here, it is a 32-bit shifter and it is used to provide left shift of 0 to 16 bits, and for 16-bit input data the shift count can be read from 4 LSBs of the temporary register, that is TREG, the one which is not mentioned over here. It is inbuilt in the input shifter. A shift count can also be read by using a constant in the instruction word. So I'll just turn out the page. If you want, you can stop the video over here and you can draw this diagram, or we'll proceed further. Don't worry, even if you stop the video over here, your recording won't get affected over there. Now generally, your input shifter is used along with instructions that load, add or you subtract the data from your accumulator or your ACC. The second one is hardware parallel multiplier. It consists of two inputs. One input is from 16-bit TRAG and the another input is either from program read bus or the data bus. This multiplier is used to calculate 32-bit product in a single cycle achievement. The TRAG is having 16 bits and it is used to hold one of the operands for multiplication. A 32-bit product register, that is nothing but PREG, is used to hold the product from the multiplier. Now the product shifter is used to shift the product to your ALU. If both the operands are from the data memory, then initially one operand must be loaded from TRAG. The next part we have is ALU. It is the arithmetic and logical unit. As the name indicates, it performs arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction and logical operation. It also consists of your accumulator and your output shifter. Your accumulator is used to store the result of the accumulator. A 32-bit ACC or the accumulator is divided into two 16-bit segments. ACCH from that is, or ACC accumulator higher section from B31 to B16, and ACC lower or ACCL from B15 to B0 over here. Now basically your ACC can rotate or shift the data according to your requirement. Now when the data is transferred from accumulator to the memory, then ACC provides left shift of 0 to 7 bits over here. Now auxiliary register arithmetic unit or ARAU. Now ARAU is used to perform address arithmetic operation. It is used to update the contents of the auxiliary registers. Now this is done in parallel with the data operations performed by the ALU. This processor contains 8 auxiliary registers which are used for addressing the data memory. These registers are AR0 to your AR7. 3-bit auxiliary pointer, that is nothing but your ARP, is used to specify 16-bit auxiliary register. This is it is called as current AR or auxiliary register. Now one input of the ARAU is the content of the data memory, and the other input is from the content of your ARP over here. Now program control. Now, as the name indicates, the program controller is used to control the flow of your program. It basically decides the sequence of instructions to be executed. Now, it consists of hardware control elements and software control elements. Now, the hardware control elements are program counter, stack, and status registers. The software control elements are branches, loops, etc. It is being divided into 4 sections: program counter, then we have stack, branch operations, and looping. Now what do we mean by program counter? It is a 16-bit pointer which is used to point the next instruction which is to be executed. Once the instruction is fetched and loaded into the IR, then the program then the program counter is incremented by 1 position. But if any branch is executed, then this counter accepts a long immediate address which is included in the branch instruction. Now stack, the second point. Now the stack is used in case of subroutine calls or interrupts. Whenever there is a subroutine or interrupt, then the return address is stored at the top of the stack. Now after completion of your subroutine or your interrupt, this return address is loaded into the program counter. Now using push and pop instruction, the stack is accessed. The following 2 additional instructions are also used: push a data value onto the stack or PSHD, now, and pop a value or retrieve a value from the stack to the data memory. Branch operations. Basically 2 types of branches, namely conditional branch and unconditional branch, are used to update the program counter. It is similar to your C programming. Now in case of unconditional branching, the program counter is loaded with specified program memory address. Using your conditional branching, the subroutine calls are executed. Now basically conditional branch consists of 2 words. When all the conditions are satisfied, then the second word is loaded into the PC. Looping. The loops are implemented using the instruction BANZ or branch on auxiliary register non-zero term. Now this instruction contains a 16-bit program memory address. If the value of the current AR or the auxiliary register is non-zero, then the branching is done to the designated program memory. We have some programming issues. Let us discuss those also. Now in case of filter designing, multiply and add operations are repeatedly used. This process makes use of repeat operations for execution of such operations. Now if n N is an operand of repeat instruction. Then an instruction RPT, or what is a repeat, executes the next incoming instruction N plus 1 times. Now when the repeat feature is used, then the next instruction is pipeline. Thus effectively it becomes a single cycle instruction. For multiply add operations, MAC and MACD or MAC or MACD instructions are used. Using these instructions, both the operands and both the operands are processed simultaneously. Now these two operands are transferred to the multiplier using program read and data read buses. If the MAC instruction is repeated, then the PC address is incremented by 1 during each repetition. For repeated instructions, the coefficient address is generated by PC and the data memory address is generated by the ARAU. Now, the MACD is similar to MAC instructions, but it also transfer the contents of data memory address to the next higher memory address over here. Now, what are the system issues that we are going to discuss now? The system issues are basically related to your memory configuration, memory managements and your interrupts. The memory address range of this processor is 192k words. It is divided into different groups as follows. First one is the word program memory of 64k, used to hold the instruction and your data. Now, the word data memory of 64k is used to hold data contained in the instructions. Now, input output space interfaces of 64k is used for interfacing the external components or the external peripherals. This processor has different amounts of on-chip memory which can be configured by the software. Now, different instructions are used to make the transfer, the data from the slower off-chip memory to your on-chip memory. It improves the speed. Now, to improve successive words in the data memory, repeat instruction is being used. Now, using a TBLR instruction, the word can be transferred from data memory to your program memory. This processor supports 1 non-maskable interrupt and 6 priority based instructions. 2 CPU registers are used for controlling interrupts. These are interrupt flag register and interrupt mask register. Then we have the application. The major application of TMS C32000 processor are to implement the first order IIR filter and non-linear median filter used for phase locked loop. I guess you might have studied this in your topic. I forgot the subject name. PLL, phase lock loop, ADC, not ADC. I would say something related to op-amps, phase lock loop over there. So yes, this is a topic over there, phase lock loop. Now the figure over here shows the block diagram of this will come to later. ये diagram पे नहीं आना है, पहले इधर आना है बेटा. Now here the DSP based all digital PLL or your phase lock loop is designed using your TMS 320F 2407 processor. Using this processor, the filter loops are implemented. The loop filter consists of a median filter in series with a low pass filter as shown over here, wherein this is nothing but your noise which is being the quantization noise which is being generated and then which is given to a median filter, and then the resultant which we receive is given to a low pass filter over here. Now here 5-point median filter is used. Again, we don't need to get into the details of this. We don't have this into syllabus right now. If needed, if you need, do let me know. I'll take this, I'll provide you with extra material for what do you mean by a median filter. Now the output of median filter is the middle value of 5 inputs sorted in increasing order. A low pass a low pass filter is used to remove undesired broadband noise. So we'll proceed for the next topic, one of the one which is being asked in exams many times, a general purpose of DSP processor TMS 320C54 XX over here. The diagram is somewhat simple as we had seen in the previous one, but to draw the diagram is somewhat a trickier part. So if you can see over here, there are two multiplexers over here, or you can say around a clock. The multiplexers are being interconnected. The multiplexer is connected via data bus. So I hope all this is making sense, because you have it in your topic, in your subject called microprocessor. This is the data bus which is being written, on which the data is being written. Then the data bus is accessible to your program cache memory, your RAM block, and what do you say, your first RAM blocks, your RAM block 0 again. And similarly, what do you say, you have your CPU interconnections with it. The CPU has many more what do you say, detailing, which we will study later on. Then you have a DMA, a bidirectional DMA. Then over here you have what do you say, four what do you say, uh, connections. One of them is for serial, and one of them is for what do you say, a timer. So sorry, two for serial input output, and two for timer. Then again you have a controller which is present over here. So yes, let's begin with the actual what do you say, diagram. This is somewhat what do you say, a scary diagram which you might be which might scare you. So yes, we won't be going that detailing right now. First of all, now it is a high degree of what do you say, of operational flexibility and speed under fixed point DSPs. It is the most advanced processor. It combines the following. Now, an advanced modified hardware architecture with one program memory bus, three data memory buses, and four address buses. Now, a CPU application with application specific hardware logic is being present in this special what do you say, processor. Then we have on chip memory peripherals. Then we have highly specialized instruction set over here. So yes, this is somewhat what do you say, interesting to learn. Now this is what the internal diagram of it looks somewhat scary. This is the internal hardware of a TMS 320654X. Please don't what do you say, try to attempt to draw this diagram right now, because it would consume more than half an hour. And even if in exam if it is being asked, we'll simply draw the block diagram, that is the one which is present over here. Now we'll study each and every perspective when it comes to this processor. So yes, let us begin with that. Now first of all, we need to understand the features of this processor. We have a CPU in consideration. The CPU is nothing but an advanced multi-bus architecture with what do you say, one program bus, three data buses, and what do you say, four address buses. It has a 40-bit arithmetic logic unit, or I would say one of the advanced version of having of the ALU, which processes 40-bit data. Now it has 40-bit accumulators, which is nothing but equal to the space of two numbers. Now we have a 40-bit barrel shifter. So again, it is an important part when it comes to barrel shifter, because barrel shifters are used for what do you say, shifting left or right of your data. Now in a single cycle. Now for non-pipelined single cycle, what do you say, multiply or accumulate MAC operation is it has what do you say, 17 into 17 bit parallel multiplier coupled to your 40-bit adder. Now CSSO unit, something new in picture. Now CSSO unit is nothing but compare, select, and store for add or compare selection of vertebrae of Viterbi operator. Now two address generator for data and program, including 8 auxiliary registers and 2 auxiliary register arithmetic unit, ARAU. Now exponent encoder to compute the exponent of what do you say, 40-bit accumulator value in a single cycle. Now ALU, or the arithmetic logic unit, ALU uses the following inputs. It is nothing but a 16-bit immediate what do you say, ALU uses the following inputs. One of them is 16-bit immediate value. Then we have a 16-bit word from data memory. Then 16-bit value in temporary register, two 16 bits words from data memory. Then we have 32-bit word from your data memory, 40-bit word from either accumulator, or I would say your yes, yeah, from either accumulator, since we have two accumulators to consider. Then what do you say, now ALU what do you say, it also performs complement complement arithmetic operation with two 40-bit accumulators A and B over here. It can also perform Boolean operations. It can also perform two 16-bit operations simultaneously. Now, the saturation logic of your ALU prevents the result from overflowing by keeping the result at the maximum or minimum. Now, this logic is applicable for the calculation of filter coefficients. So, the features of TMS 320 54X series is being divided over here, CPU and ALU. So ALU has certain points such as the accumulators, barrel shifter, multiplier, CSSU, memory and instruction set. Then this instruction set is again divided into three sections. It is nothing but your single instruction repeat and block repeat operations, data memory addressing modes, and then you have data memory addressing modes and program memory addressing. We'll study each and every one of them in detail. Now, ALU has an associated carry bit C. Now, it is set at the time of hardware reset. Now, this carry bit or C can be used for overflow management. Accumulators. Now, it consists of two accumulators A and B over here. The format of this accumulator is shown in a certain figure over here. I'll show you the diagram also. So yes, this is the diagram which we are going to discuss. Now, as shown in the diagram over here, both the accumulator, that is accumulator A and accumulator B over here, they both consist of guard bits. That is the one which is present over here, guard bits, high order bits and low order bits. The different instructions are provided for the following purposes. One of them is for storing guard bits, then second one is for storing high and low order accumulator words in data memory, and then third one is transferring 32-bit accumulator words in or out of data memory. Now, then we have the barrel shifter. It is a 40-bit input and output. It is a 40-bit input and output block. Input is connected to the accumulator or data memory, and output is connected to the ALU or your data memory. It can produce a left shift of 0 to 31 bits and right shift of 0 to 16 bits for your input data. The barrel shifter is used for the following scaling operations. One of them is pre-scaling. So pre-scaling input data memory operand or the accumulator value before your ALU operation. Then we have the logical or arithmetic shift of accumulator value. Then we have the normalizing the accumulator. Then we have post scaling accumulator before storing accumulator value into your data memory. Now, then we have a multiplier or adder unit. A multiplier adder block consists of the following elements. One of them is a multiplier, then we have an adder, then we have an overflow saturation logic, then we have a zero detector, then we have a 2's complement rounding, then we have a 10-bit temporary storage register or T over here. Now, this unit can perform the operations with the following constraints. For signed multiplications, each 16-bit memory operand is assumed to be 17-bit word with sign extension. So in the initial left hand side, you will be having one single digit, either 0 or 1, to denote the sign, either plus or negative. Now, for unsigned multiplication, 0 is added to the MSB or in the extreme right in each input operand. For signed or unsigned multiplications, one of the operands is sign extended and the other is extended with MSB equals to 0. Now, the CSSU or the compare, select and the store unit. Now, this unit is used to perform the following operations. It is used for comparison between the high and the low word of your accumulator. Now, to keep the transition histories, it allows test or control flag bit in your status register or known as STO and transition register, that is known as TRN. Selects the large word in the accumulator to store it into the data memory. Then we have a memory to be discussed. The memory is nothing but the total memory space is 192k 16-bit words. This space is divided into three segments. One of them is for 64k words of program. Then again we have a 64 kilobytes word of data, and then we have 64 kilobyte words of input and output. Now the following memory operations can be performed. First one is an instruction fetch, then we have two operands read, and the third one is operand write over here. Now we can interface external memory. We can interface external memory, but always on chip memory is preferred because of the following reason. Since it is an on chip memory, so data is available readily, hence no wait states are required, therefore higher performance is obtained. We have lower power consumption and low cost compared to your external memory. The operations performed by different memory segments are as follows. First is the program memory. It contains the instructions to execute as well as loop up tables. Then we have the data memory. It contains data used by an instruction. Then we have an input output memory. It interfaces to your external memory mapped peripherals or your components. It also serves as extra data storage space. Now your instruction set. The main instructions are as follows. First is the single instruction repeat and block repeat operations. It consists of the following instructions. The first one is block memory move instructions for data management. Then we have instructions with 32-bit long operand. Then instructions with 2 or 3 operand simultaneous read. Then we have arithmetic instructions with parallel store and parallel load. Now conditional store instructions, fast return from the conditional store instructions and fast return from your interrupt. Then the second type of instruction set is data memory addressing nodes. The different data memory addressing modes are as follows. One of them is immediate addressing, then we have absolute addressing, then we have accumulator addressing, then we have direct addressing, then we have indirect addressing, then we have memory mapped register addressing, and stack addressing. Now we have over here program memory addressing. Now some of the operations that affect the value loaded in your program counter or your PC. Now these operations are as follows. First one is branches, then we have calls, then we have returns, then we have conditional operation, then we have repeat of instructions or block of instructions, then you have hardware reset, and then you have interrupts over here. The SHARC floating point processor. Now the SHARC stands for Super Harvard Architecture Computer. That is nothing but simple SHARC floating point processor. Since the word floating point is being introduced over here, that means it will be the input will be much higher. Numbers of having the power 10 raised to 20, 30, 40, depending upon the type of input that we are going to give this processor. Now it is a floating point processor having a very high accuracy. Then some common features of SHARC processors are as follows. First one is a single instruction multiple data or SIMD processing elements. Then we have a coprocessor for your filter processing. Then we have your high performance 32-bit floating point core over here. Then we have your single cycle calculations. Then we have link ports for data transport across the SHARC processor. Then over here we have wide range of code compatibility. Then over here we have input output bus used with DMA transfers. Now then we have 32 bit circular 32 circular buffers are supported by 32 address pointer. Now this point we will discuss later on if needed. Now the Tiger SHARC processor. Now Tiger comes into picture beta, शेर आ गया. Now It is the most powerful processor manufactured by Analog Devices ADSP. Now, it is widely used for telecommunication applications like the mobile base stations. Now, it is basically very high performance static superscalar DSP. Then, it is designed to perform multiprocessing applications which involves large amount of signal processing. It can execute 1 to 4 32-bit instructions simultaneously, and it is possible by generating a single line instruction. Now, it has a capability of supporting SIMD or single instruction multiple data operation. Each computation block can execute 16-bit SIMD operations in parallel. Now, it can support for it can support for both fixed point and floating point format with 8, 16 or 32 bits over here. It has a large on-chip memory as well as it provides a large bandwidth over here. So yes, Tiger Shark is one of the most important topic. Now let us discuss something more on the architecture of your Tiger Shark processor. If you can look carefully over here, the architecture is somewhat mentioned over here. The internal architecture of the Tiger Shark processor is shown in the figure over here. Now the major blocks are, first of all, the major block is computational units. Then we have address generators. Computational units are somewhat mentioned over here. Then we have an address generator. Then we have a program control unit, and then we have a DMA, or DMA controller, the one which is mentioned over here, the DMA controller. Now, computational unit, the one which are mentioned over here, it consists of two computational units. Now, each computational unit consists of Alu, Bhalu, and Makalu. No, sorry. it Each computational unit consists of ALU, then you have a multiplier and a shifter over here. The performance of your ALU, the one which is present over here, is same as any processor performing logical as well as your arithmetic operations. Each computational unit makes use of 32 or 64-bit inputs, and it handles both fixed point and floating point data. Now, as shown in the figure over here, 6 point, the one which is mentioned over here, each computation unit has a data register having 32-bit registers. Then now, if the input is 64-bit, then two 32-bit register files are being are concatenated, and 64 bits are generated. Sometimes an arithmetic operation is carried out on different data by using a single instruction. So we'll proceed further. Now, in such cases, the Shark processor can be termed as the SIMD, or single input multiple data processor. Depending upon the application, the processor can use 32-bit register file as two 16-bit register, or 4-bit or 4 8-bit registers. Now, address generator or DAG, there are two address generators. These are also called as data address generators or DAG. The data is transferred to the two computational units using address generators. The address generator does the calculation of address of the data, and and accordingly the data is transferred to the computational units. Now, the address generators have an operational bit reversal capability. In FFT algorithm, this bit reversal is required. Now, we have program control unit. It is also called as program sequencer. The program sequencer performs the following functions. It generates addresses for the instructions. It provides flexible control of the program flow. It gives sophisticated interrupt processing. The conditional as well as unconditional zero overhead looping is provided. Similarly, conditional as well as unconditional single cycle branching is also provided. Now, the program sequencer consists of instruction buffer, or IB. It is used to catch the fetched instruction lines which are waiting for your execution. Now, the program sequencer draws the instruction line from the IB and transfers to one of the computational units. Now, The program control unit also contains the branch target buffer or your BTB. It is used to store the address of your previously executed instructions. Now, when any new instruction is to be executed, then depending upon the content of BTB, the address can be predicted. This basically reduces the delay over here. Then we have a DMA controller, the last topic for today. Now, this will be the DMA controller is nothing but the processor contains DMA controller with 14 DMA channels. The operation of DMA controller is invisible to the processor. The processor has on-chip memory with which is divided into 3 blocks, and one block is used for code and the other 2 blocks are used for data. So that was all for 320 TMS 320 54 XX series. For the next time, we'll start with the distinguish of between a DSP and a microprocessor, and then some new topic is again to be introduced. So up till then, kindly stay safe, and thank you, bacha.